Did you choose the right value? Let's get into solving this week's Workout Wednesday Sigma Computing Challenge. I have the challenge pulled up right here. We can see that this week we're building off of week 2 and we're looking to build some dynamic bar charts so our end user can select what value they want to show and at what level it's going to be grouped at or by each category. So for example, we're looking average price by store region. We could look at sum of price by store state or something like that. And so again, we're going to be able to switch between all of these different types of aggregations and all of these different levels of drill down, as well as having none, which is just going to give us the top level uh, average price in this scenario. So, the objective of this challenge is to help you understand the difference between the different types of control elements in Sigma. Last week, we looked at the drill down control element, which allows us to easily switch between these different things. But this time, we want to be able to reference what level we're drilled down into. And that's going to be a different type of control element. And we can see how we're referencing those things by seeing a different number here as well as our text element updating there or title updating. So let's hop into the challenge. I have the directions or instructions or requirements pulled up over here, and I'm going to quickly add a new table element. We're just pulling in our typical or our common plugs electronic hands-on lab. We'll select this one. Again, we are going to be using this metrics tab. If you are completing this challenge in your own Sigma environment, you're not using the WOW instance or the Workout Wednesday instance, you may or may not have these calculations added for you. You might need to go through and add them. The plugs electronics is default to most Sigma instances, but the adding the metrics might not be. So just keep that in mind. But for the challenge, we've got our profit listed here. You want to add 2 options to select different locations and measure options. So what I'm going to do is create a child visualization off of these. I know that my parent element is going to be determining kind of the data, and I know we're going to be building a horizontal bar chart. Again, we're recreating or doing something very similar to what we did last time. But this time, we want to be able to select 2 different location measures or end measure options. This time, I'm going to start with the measure option. I'll explain how and why we're going to do that one, and that will also help us figure out the location one. So let's start with the measure one. So to do this, I hope you got some of my hints, but we're going to be using the choose calculation, which is one of my favorite functions. It's basically similar to an if statement or choosing whatever indexed value is going to be put there. If you're unfamiliar with Excel or Sigma or maybe some other BI tools, this one might seem really sparse and you're, what's going on? Don't worry, we'll figure that out. Again, you could use an if statement. The choose statement is not the only option that you could use, but it's my preferred way. And part of that is because I like to add my control elements using numbers. So this time, I know that I want to look at a segmented control, and this is because these values are showing up horizontally. That's an indicator that we're going to be using this one, and I've got 4 values here. So I'm going to click into my control element, and we've got a few settings in here. Most of them are going to keep the same, but this one I am going to change to number again so that we can use that choose or index value. If you're using an if statement, just keep it at text and adjust the calculation as you see here. But my first value that we saw was the average. So I'm going to just label average price. The second value, and now we can see that one popped up. The second value that we added is sum price. Third is, whoops, sum cost. And fourth is some profit. All right, so these are just creating the options that are available for end users to select. We do not want to show a clear option. We do not want to have this be required. This is something where Sigma would not load the data until a value is selected, but I'm going to label or rename this control ID to selected value, something that makes it really easy to differentiate this control element from some of the other ones. All right, so we've got our control option listed here, so we can select all of these. Again, nothing is changing because we haven't yet told Sigma what values to populate when those options are selected. So I'm going to go into my bar chart, and here I'm going to directly add my calculation into the bar chart. You could do it in the table in the parent element if you want to. Because we're also adding another layer of dynamicness to this, or we're adding the ability to select a different level of group by statement or an aggregation, I want to just keep it simple. We'll put it in here. But again, if you want to put it somewhere else, you can. But just note that you may have to adjust the steps that you see here based off of where you have it selected. But I'm going to add a new calculation for a new column. And then I'm going to choose the choose function or formula, which returns the value with a corresponding index position. So again, I've got choose. I'm going to just select my selected value. Control element, you can also type this name in. That also works. And for here, I can see that I have my values as average price. So again, I'm going to just throw that aggregation onto this calculation as opposed to creating it elsewhere and pulling it in. And then sum of price, sum of cost, and sum of profit. And we can see here that Sigma is telling me that this is pulling in the metrics one. So that says metrics / profit. Metrics is the source of where we're getting the profits column. Again, you can reference pretty much anything in Sigma from anywhere. This is an easy way to pull things in from different places. So I'm just clicking enter or return, and now we have a bar chart, or excuse me, we have a bar in our bar chart. So we can see that there's a calculation. When I change this, our number changes, sum of price, sum of cost, again, have a different value. So I'm going to relabel this as selected value to make it easy. While we're here, let's also change the custom format for this one. I'm just going to copy this in here. I'm going to go to my bar in my bar chart, click on the selected value measure, come to format, choose custom, and I'm going to type in or just paste in this format string. This is really similar to what we did last week when we were looking at adding that millions, billions, thousands kind of indicator onto these numbers. The cool thing or the handy thing about this option is that it is dynamic. And so when we look at, here we'll apply it and we'll look at the average price, we can see that this is only $260. So we don't need a label on top of it versus the sum of price, which is going to be 1.2 billion. That one needs a B. So it's a really handy way to just future-proof your labeling and not have to deal with anything else. Again, just to make it easy while we're here so that you can follow along with me, I'm going to turn on the data labels. Again, just went to the element format and data labels and clicked there. And we're also going to choose all for this one because again, we want to keep it visible. All right, so let's look at the next part of the challenge, which is changing what's going to be on the y-axis. So this is maybe a little bit tricky, or if anyone was trying to recreate or use what they had last week, unfortunately, you won't be able to copy paste that. Again, this is part of the challenge as I wanted to help demonstrate the difference between a drill down control element and this segmented control element. If anyone noticed, if you go back to here, there is a link in here to a post where I talk about the difference between these two, but hopefully you found it on your own or just Googling around. And so I'm going to pull in another segmented control. So again, what we want to do here is basically the same thing where we're going to create some options that folks can choose. So I'm going to choose one, and the first one is store region, 2, store state, 3, store city, and 4 was store name. All right, so we've got our 4 drillable options here. And again, these are acting more like parameters. But now what was supposed to be an indicator to anyone who caught it or a clue for understanding how to resolve this challenge was the none options. And this is only available in the segmented control. It's not available in the drill down. So now we can see that we just have a none option listed here. You can rename it if you want to. If you ever want to or need to, you could say null, no value, default, I don't know, something like that. But we're gonna name this as selected location. And now we're going to do the exact same thing that we did for the selected value, just with our selected location. I'm going to add a new column on my y-axis, and I'm going to choose the choose calculation again. Again, I could click here, or I can just type in selected location. And here we can see that Sigma is telling me that this is the control element options. These little knobs give me that indicator. Versus up here, this selected value is going to be the calculation that is displayed here. So this is the selected value control element, this thing, and then this is the selected value measure or what is being labeled there. Let's click on this one. I'm going to choose region is our first one, state, city, and store, name, store name. All right. We do not need to identify or tell Sigma what to put for the none because it's just going to pull in a null value. So we can see that here. So again, there's nothing listed there. There's null. But otherwise, we are able to see our region, state, city, store name, which might want to apply some filters on that one, but that'll be a future challenge, I'm sure. So again, we can choose any value that we want to put in here based off of these control elements here. So I'm going to come back to my y-axis. I'm going to label this as selected location value, something simple, something like that. And next, what we want to do is we have these options to select, but we want to tell our end user what is selected. So we can see here that when I select something different, this title changes. So this is actually a text element and not a title or not a dynamic title element, but a dynamic text element, which you may have seen some indicators to in some of the videos when I am clicking into some of these instructions. But I'm going to add a new element by, again, coming to the plus sign, add text element, pull that in here. And you can see that Sigma is telling me how to actually accomplish this task. So I'm going to pull in or just type in the enter, and now I'm prompted to fill in a formula for it. So what we could do, or what personally, what I do, the easy way to create these, I want to go back to my calculation that is telling me what I have chosen, and I'm just going to highlight all of this and copy and paste it in here. I like to be efficient and reuse work that I already have done. So here we can see that Sigma is recognizing the selected value, but it doesn't like the fact that we're trying to pull in numbers. So what I'm going to do is just label these some price. Whoops, we did average. There we go. Average price. And this one will just be some price. Again, you could just type these out, whatever you think is the most efficient way to do these. It could also be something where maybe you want to add some more context to this label. You could say total sum or something along those lines. But for now, we're just going to pull in these text values. So again, we can see that now Sigma is okay with this because it is a text value, and we're going to save this. And now we can see average price. You can see that it does have this bubble around it, and that's just indicating that it is a text versus something that I'm typing in, which doesn't have that bubble. Again, when we publish it, that bubble will go away. We don't need to change any or apply any settings to that in order to do that. Next, we're going to copy and paste in our location value. Again, going back to the bar chart, and I'm going to choose my selected value my selected location value. I'm going to copy and paste this, come back to my text element, click enter, equals again to pull in that prompt for the calculation, and just change these brackets to be quotation marks. There we go, by store region. All right, let's see if there's anything else that we need to do for functionality. I think that this is basically it. So I'm going to click right here and pull, whoops, I don't want that text element. I'm going to select all of these elements and move to a new page. Handy trick if you need to move multiple elements at the same time. I'll just pull this down here. I put my location off to this side, my selected value here. I'm going to make this a bit smaller so everything fits together. Another handy thing you can do is select all of them and then auto layout if you would like as well. Remember, I made this bigger. I don't remember. I think it's full size. All right. All right. And looking at it, I see that I did forget the sort for these. Again, we're just going to choose the selected value. Like last time, Sigma will remember what kind of the order that we want it to be. So we don't need to change anything here and everything will update. Since we're going to keep this average price as our by store region as our title, we're going to remove this element title. So I'm going to click on the element, go to the element format, click title, and just uncheck that title. And I remember that I wanted to have this section be bigger so it does look like a title. And let me see what I put for that. While we're here, it looks like the bar chart color should be this. I know it's the same since I didn't change it. And small heading. There we go. So we're going to choose the small heading size. So I'm just going to select all of this, come up here to the text style and choose small heading. The last thing or the last optional thing to do is add a vertical divider. So I'm going to come to the data elements and just pop one in here. And then I'm going to choose vertical right there. All right, let me go back here, see if I forgot anything. All right, looks like the only thing I forgot was hidden grid lines for the x-axis. That's pretty easy to do. Come again to the format and x-axis, and we're gonna hide the grid lines. All right, so let's preview this just real quick so we can make sure that it looks the same. There we go. That's this week's challenge. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it was a little bit more challenging for you, but I hope you understand how valuable this concept can be. Again, being able to build these dynamic options as well as knowing when to choose the correct control element, the correct formula, anything within Sigma. Sigma has lots of different options to do things, but sometimes there is a right and a wrong way to do it. I hope you had fun in this challenge and we'll catch you in the next one.